are watching Over the Back Fence, a conversation among neighbors. My name is Susan Laux, and this is a production of Neighborhood Falmouth. Today, our conversationalists include Grant Willis, Jackie Pratt, Mary Pat McKenzie, Marian Bihari, and me. So the conversation today, this moment, is museums you enjoy. And anyone want to go first? I mean, there's so many. I mean, how do you choose? Grant.
Since I was lucky enough to be president of the Falmouth Historical Society back in the first years of this century, I feel more connected to that one than perhaps some of the bigger museums out of town. But I really, I think that under the directorship of Mark Schmidt, the building of the new um, education center, which everybody wants to change the name to the cultural center. I think it has become, they change, and plus the name change to Museums on the Green, so people know where to find you. I just got something from the website telling me about the next two um, author talks. Uh, they use Constant Contact, which is a pretty good web service. And I just think the stuff they have that they've never shown, the textiles, the dresses, stuff like that. I'd love to just lay it all out in the on the front lawn on mannequins or something like that. But now there's so much there in the basements. There's quilts um, that are just hard to display in multiples. You can hang one on the wall, but then you run out of wall. But yeah, that would be my favorite, just because I'm a you know I hang in there with them every so often. I do some volunteer work, and I like the grounds.
Nice.
I like the garden up front. The community the garden clubs 1944 special.
Nice. Well, you remind me that of Highfield, and it's like, I mean, and this discussion is not necessarily intended to be a Falmer booster discussion, but when I have people in town, we often go over to Highfield, and that Stickworks sculpture out front totally captivates me, and I bring kids there and friends who are in town and the dog, and it's awesome. And then the things that are going on inside are often really compelling, and same thing, the gardens, really, really nice. So yeah, I feel like we're really lucky to have that.
We are.
Yeah. How about any of you guys?
I love aquariums, and I love the New England Aquarium. But second to that, I love the Woods Hole Aquarium. I get a big kick out of it. For one thing, I love to be able to pick the animals up. The little things where you can pick up the hermit crabs, and and I remember my daughter being with me in the Woods Hole Aquarium, and she was telling a kid who was scared. He said, she goes, "It's all right. My mother will pick it up for you." But I love aquariums. I absolutely do. They're my salvation online during the pandemic. I'll go to one of the aquariums and look at the live cams. Watch
cam or the penguin cam or something like that.
Penguin walk, yes. Oh yeah, all of those things. I once was volunteered for the New England Aquarium and fed penguins.
Fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It really was, but they do smell.
They smell awful. They're stinky, stinky, stinky.
And you feed them raw fish. And you have to match the fish for the they're
Right.
coated because some of them have medication.
Oh,
Yeah,
Right.
or on special diets and stuff. So
Jackie, have you ever looked on the Animal Planet? They have the Georgia Aquarium, which
Yeah.
is the biggest one in the United States.
George is one of my favorites.
And it's incredible. I think their tank is like 2 baseball fields. And it's,
wow.
you have to look at the schedule, but I just sit there in awe what they do with the fish and the whales and whatever.
Cool.
Yeah,
That is cool.
and I got so excited with the belugas. I'm trying to remember whether it was California or Georgia where they had a baby beluga, but I think it was Georgia. And I got real excited over that. That was about 2 weeks worth of entertainment.
Incredible aquarium.
Yeah. But
That's one of the odd bonuses of COVID is because we're home, we visited museums and
Yes.
websites and gardens all over the world and things that we never would have done otherwise. You weren't thinking about it. And then when you're sort of trapped in the house, it's like, well, what's going on? And you start asking and looking, and the world is open to us right now.
Nice. I also love the Peabody Essex Museum.
Oh, yeah.
I love that China house in the back.
Yes, very much.
And about that, every time I go there, I have to go in there and walk around there. It just totally captivates me. It's just amazing. And we were just in Salem over the weekend, and they have that memorial to the mostly women, to the people who were hanged as witches.
Mm.
And it's right on the side of the cemetery where many of them are buried. But this is just a very smallish, it's kind of like this little park right out here where they have the music sometimes, just the kind of off of the library lawn. And it's modest like that. And it's just these stones with all these names and dates on it of people who were hanged as witches. And it's just so compelling. So I just think, and I guess it's also sort of the frame of mind when you go into a museum. Like some days if you just stumble onto something and you're someplace and you say, let's go in here, and it just something clicks and it's so magical, and you think, holy smokes, how this place is amazing. I love that. I just love that.
I have one that's local, but not local to Falmouth. I mean, which I hadn't thought about until Grant talked about the Historical Society. It's the Alexander Graham Bell Museum in
Love that place.
Scotia. And I was at the opening as a small child of that museum because my grandparents' summer place is in Bedeck, and it's still there, and I still go there. And my kids, because we think of him mostly as inventing the phone, but he invented the iron lung. He did the first flight in the British Empire with the Silver Dart plane. So there's a replica of the Silver Dart there. And he was big on kites. So the very shape of the museum is in a kite formation. It's modeled on one of his kites. And then he had a hydroplane. We used to call it was rotting on the beach when I was a kid, called the Cigar, which was actually a whatever those things are, hydroplane boats. And that's there too now. They resurrected it and then built a copy of it. But that is fascinating. You could spend days in there, and it's not that big, but it is incredible. It really
Did
is.
he do like hearing aids too? I remember
That's what he did. He was a speech therapist.
Yeah.
And he worked out of Boston. He came from Scotland, went to Ontario, then went to Boston. And his wife was from Boston. And she was the daughter of a very wealthy man. And he was hired to teach her to do sign language, which is what he taught. And so he taught Helen Keller. And I mean, he was like a Renaissance man.
Mm.
Family still, all the family, you know, generations later still come in the summer. And they hang out there. My cousin's kids have all worked there in the museum. I mean, it's really, it's like the museums in Falmouth. It is like really cohesive part of the community.
Really hands-on and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember going there
Yeah.
a few years
Yeah.
ago, and I thought it was incredible.
Yeah. They do programs in the summer for kids, so you can dump them off. Done that.
Dump them off. Nice.
Dump them off.
Marion, how about you?
Well, I grew up in Chicago, so this is quite a distance away, not in Canada, but we're in Chicago. And my father and I would walk almost every Saturday to the Science and Industry Museum.
Oh, nice.
And it's right on the lake, Lake Michigan. And he started taking me there when I was a little girl, and we went week after week after week. And every couple of months they changed exhibits. But my favorite was in the basement, they had a coal mine. And they also had, and I don't even know if they still have it today, and they had a coal train. So the guests would go in the train, and I mean, you wouldn't go very far. And it was dark and dingy, like you were going into a coal mine. And it was just incredible. I remember that really well. And the other thing on the third floor, I think it was, they had a room with babies in it.
Babies? Oh, no.
We lost it.
They- in the mother's stomach, seriously. The second week, the month, can you hear me? I don't know.
Yeah, now we can.
Froze for a minute, but now you're back.
Yeah. They weren't real babies, but there were babies and how they were growing in the mother's womb.
Gestation and all that.
And it was incredible. It started out with when the fetus was like 2 weeks old, and it just kept going until at the end was a full-size baby. Now, I don't know if they still have that, but that wasn't, I just would stare at it because I'd never seen anything like that.
Wow.
I'll have to check online if they still have that exhibit.
Mm.
Of course, that was like, 60 years ago. But
Wow.
so I remember that. It was just a great museum.
You remind me of, do you remember the Thorn Rooms? They were, I don't know which museum they were in, the Chicago Art Museum, but now it's
The Art Institute, yes.
now it's the Art Institute. They may have moved, but they were all these miniature like dollhouse rooms,
Yes.
and they were just like 70 of them, and it just different periods of like what a living room would look like in the federal period and what it would look like in Miami in the 70s and the
Right.
whatever, and it was wild. And whenever I visited my grandparents in the suburbs of Chicago, we always went in there, and we had some connection through family friends to this family who was the Thorn people. And oh my God, it's just as a little girl, and they always had little benches that you could stand on to look, so you would be tall enough to see in these little windows, and oh, it's spectacular.
It's much more famous now than it was when I was a kid. They've renovated it. It's just a beautiful museum.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Anybody else?
Well, you guys have brought back memories of when I was a child. I went on a field trip to the Higgins Armory in Worcester, and armor. It was armor, and it was
Really?
yeah. And I was fascinated because they had a section of women's armor. They had some chainmail that supposedly was perhaps Joan of Arc's, and
In Worcester, they have Joan's clothes.
Yeah, maybe is the operative word.
so I'm trying to remember what the dosage said, but I said she said there are some reports that this might be attributed.
Nice going marketing, Worcester Art Museum, Higgins,
Well,
Armory.
Well, that's the thing. What recently, within probably the last 10, 15 years, that the thing is Higgins Armory closed down and the collection went to the Worcester Art
Worcester.
Museum, which they've also had a really amazing display of Japanese armor, which
Oh,
is
nice.
Ah.
the samurai are gorgeous. But I live for those field trips because I thought it was the most amazing thing. And the docent explained that back in the day when they went to the Crusades, it wasn't for a 2-week stay. They went for like 10, 11 years. And so that the lady of the manor, or had to protect the lands against intruders because people were fighting all the time. And so women needed armor, which is kind of amazing. And that wasn't my image of sort of that period of history at all. But at any rate, I was fascinated. I thought the Japanese armor was amazing. And
That's incredible. I want to go there.
Mm.
oh yeah,
The Met in New York has a lot of Japanese armor too. It's really incredible because it's different from medieval Europe.
different altogether. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
altogether.
really different.
And it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like it's artwork, except they wore it.
Well, it's like, how the big business now is having fashions at museums. So
Yes.
Yeah.
people like me can go look at them. So it's like, the latter day fashion, right?
Yes,
Garments.
yeah.
You remember the woman with the big glasses?
Oh, yes, in New York.
Iris Apfel.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
They had an exhibit at the
At the
the
Met.
Peabody Essex,
Okay.
and the group I was in, we went up there, and it was incredible.
Mhm.
They had a life-size model of her, and with her big glasses and all of the fashions and whatever. It was just terrific.
She's still
By
alive.
the way, for
Yeah.
all of us and for other people, the best gift shop in any fairly local Boston gift shop is the Peabody Essex.
Yeah. I
They
would
have the
agree.
best gift shop there of any place around.
Yeah, they have some wonderful stuff. I mean, all that stuff is super.
The Met owns all her clothes. She donated them all to the Metropolitan Museum in New York. So I saw that at the Costume Institute in New York.
Yes,
Is astounding.
it was.
Little.
Yes, very little,
She's very little.
with big glasses.
Yeah.
Glasses, state
Yeah.
glasses.
Yeah.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, this just makes me want to go see a museum. And I hope if you're watching, you go see a museum too and let us know what you saw and whether you liked it and whether we should all go. So I think we'll wrap it up with this. And thank you for joining us for Over the Back Fence, a conversation among neighbors. This is a production of Neighborhood Falmouth. Thank you.
Bye.